Okay, so I've taken a couple days off this week for Christmas. It's Sunday, the day after Christmas. I'm back, but I don't want to be fully back. I want to jump right into super serious, uh, stuff that makes you want to jump off a cliff, like I normally talk about. I want to talk about some fun internet drama today. So, forgive me, but allow me to indulge myself because I've really been enjoying this week the implosion of Jack Murphy, aka John Goldman, self-proclaimed internet masculinity guru, who will teach you how to be a super alpha Chad for the small price of $100 a month. You can join his men's club. I believe it's called the Liminal Order. They have this cool logo thing, makes you feel like, hey, you're a part of a select few of super manly men, all learning from each other how to be giga chads. Gonna grow out your operator beard and live out in the woods, chop some wood, and be virile, raise a family of like 8 kids. And so this is the lifestyle that Jack Murphy is currently in the business of selling. Now, I didn't know a whole lot about Jack Murphy before this whole controversy, which I will get into in case you haven't heard, but I assume most of you probably heard it by now. But I only knew Jack from the Timcast IRL show, where he is a pretty regular guest, like once every 2 weeks. And, he's most of the guests on Timcast, if they're not people I already know, I mean, I kind of skip over them. A lot of seem boring, like that, the gay guy who really likes energy markets, he's kind of boring. And there's a lot of folks like that who will regularly appear on Tim's show. But, when Jack Murphy's on, if it's a good topic, I'll watch it. If it's something I don't care about, I wouldn't watch it. That's kind of my attitude towards him. It's not that I'm not super in agreement with everything he says, as I am not with most internet commentators. But he seems like a pretty reasonable guy. I somewhat enjoy his input, his part he plays in the show. It's an ensemble cast of like 5 people. But then, this week during Tim's show, when Jack was on, for a regularly scheduled visit, Tim put out a PSA to all the people sending in super chats that, hey, I see all your troll comments about internet drama, and I'm not going to read them on here. You think that I'm going to, voice all this stuff? And it was something about, he said it was something about Jack and Elijah Schaefer and, what's her name, Sydney Watson, I think. Who had, those two have a show together over on The Blaze, which I've never seen, but from, the two of them, they're pretty good people, so I imagine it's a good show. And Tim just, gave some kind of general, school marmy thing about, hey, you throw money at this, I'm not going to read your super chats. And so that to me seemed a little strange. It's like, wait, Tim doesn't want to read super chats that say certain something? What do these super chats say? And unfortunately, I was watching the next day, the recap of this stream, so the chats weren't, I wasn't watching it in real time, so I couldn't just look at what the super chat said. But I looked at the comments section of the video, of the VOD, and that told me everything I needed to know. And the first thing I saw was, it was the old hold my beer meme. The first one said, Vouch, I'm the worst Timcast IRL guest ever. And then R.A. the Rugged Man, hold my beer. And then Jack Murphy, hold my wife's boyfriend's beer. And I thought, oh, wait, what? It sounds like there's some kind of cuck scandal regarding Jack Murphy. And that was my first introduction to it. And so I kept reading the comments, and I got a few more details. And then I realized, this has something to do with Elijah Schaefer and Sydney Watson. So I decided to go on Twitter and just decided to search Jack Murphy and then look at the suggestions for the search. And I think the first one that I saw that I clicked on was Jack Murphy, Sydney Watson. And that brought up the clip. And boy, what a clip it was if you haven't seen it. I don't know if I'll link to any of this stuff in the description. Maybe I will. I don't know if I'm going to put that much effort into this video. It is just e-drama. But it's fun e-drama. And so, old Sydney Watson, unlike Tim Pool, she's the type, I guess, who reads super chats. No matter what they say. Within reason. And so Sydney read a super chat, which was directed at Jack Murphy. a $5 super chat from Mr. Dick and Balls. Great username, by the way. This guy certainly got his money's worth out of his $5 super chat, or maybe it was a $2 super chat. It was single digits. And it said, "Could you please clear up the cuck article you wrote?" You know, it's an innocuous enough question. Oh, you wrote a cuck article? Let's clear that up. What's that about? And Miss Watson clearly, didn't think twice about it. She just said, "Oh, he's somebody asking about a cuck article. This is a guy who writes about, relationships and things. Maybe he wrote some article about cucks. That doesn't seem unreasonable. That seems like something that would be in his wheelhouse. Probably talking about, why it's so unhealthy, what the pathology is of the cuckold lifestyle and what's wrong with these guys. This is a masculinity guru, so he should be an authority on cucks." And so what did Jack Murphy say to that? He says, "Fuck you." Not even to the super chatter, to the host of the show who just read a super chat. And he says it like 5 times. He blows up. He's like, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Yeah, heartfelt, fuck you." And he stays there sitting in his chair, with both hands on the armrests. And he's just shouting at a host when he's on somebody else's show, in somebody else's studio, shouting "fuck you" at the host. And he doesn't even have the dignity to walk out. And this poor woman apologizes to him, which I wouldn't have done in a million years. If I were on that set, I would have told him, "Get out." You don't talk to me that way on my set. If I have a show and I'm interviewing somebody and I read a super chat, I don't even ask them a question. It wasn't even like she was asking him a tough question. She just read a super chat. And he starts shouting, "Fuck you, fuck you. Why are you doing this to me? Oh my gosh, I'm such a victim." And so masculinity guru, chief poobah of the liminal order, Jack Murphy, obviously couldn't handle what was being dished out. And so this just made me even more interested. Oh my gosh, why is he freaking out like this? And this, I think, was probably the reaction of everyone who saw that and had no idea what the question was about. It should have been, as the host, if I were the host of that show, I didn't watch the full episode, but apparently the host tried to de-escalate the situation after that and move on. That's the last thing I would have done. If somebody responds like that to a question, I would go, "Wow, thank you, super chatter. You really struck a nerve. You hit on something good. This is something that we need to drill down into. Why is this person getting so agitated?" That's, maybe some people don't like to do those kinds of interviews. It's just supposed to be friends sitting on a couch. It's not supposed to be whatever 60 Minutes, passes itself off as, even though 60 Minutes doesn't do hard interviews like that. But that's how they portray themselves. You don't even portray yourself as a hard interview show. You're just there having fun. But nevertheless, everybody at home has Google, they have Twitter. They're going to try and dig into this a little deeper, I think. And that's what happened. And all of a sudden we see these screenshots. And hence the title of my video today, "Cultivating Erotic Energy from a Surprising Source." This was Jack Murphy's fabled cuck article, which he was so angry and so infuriated by that he couldn't even discuss it, just at the mere mention of it. Not even the title, just somebody said cuck article. And he flies off the handle. And so what's this article, "Cultivating Erotic Energy from a Surprising Source"? What's it about? Well, it turns out masculinity guru, grand poobah of the liminal order, Jack Murphy, was, at least in 2015 when he wrote this article, a proud cuck. Now, I don't know about you, but I would not be paying $100 a month to a cuck to teach me how to be a real man. It doesn't seem like a great investment. I don't think that, hiring a professional male role model for yourself is necessarily a great thing anyway. I don't see how you can pay for that sort of a thing. Either you have, a good dad, or you have men in your life who, listen, give a good example, or you don't. You kind of have to learn about that in the abstract, read books about how successful people live their lives. About how, hey, I don't hook up with 3 women a week. Hey, I have a stable family life. I care about my kids. You kind of have to either figure that stuff out, that, or you don't. I don't think paying some super manly guy $100 a month to teach you about that is going to turn your life around. But hey, some people, if they want to pay that money to him, you know, that's their business. Maybe it helps them. Maybe he's a good friend if you pay him $100 a month. Maybe he'll even let you sleep with his fiance, who apparently he is still with. It's the same woman from back then. He's only now engaged. This article is 6 years old. It's almost, I guess, going on 7 years old, 6.5 years old. I think came out July 2015 is when he posted it. And he says in the article he'd already been with her for 2 years. She was loyal, and that's why he decided to send her out to go have sex with Matt from Tinder. Now, I don't know about you, but I mean, I don't want to get into too many of the nasty details. If you do want to hear the whole article, if you're not going to read it yourself, which I don't know if I can find the full archive. Jim, Mr. Medicare, I can never say his name right, in his Christmas stream, did read the whole article. So you can go find Menimus 2021. I'm sure the archive's up on YouTube. And you can hear the whole article, all the sick and depraved things in it. But basically, Jack Murphy, in 2015 at the very least, was not a very good male role model. He's not the kind of guy that you would want to look up to. You know, if you're, say, 20 years old and you're looking for, you know, you didn't have a great dad, maybe you were raised by a single mother, and you want to know, you know, hey, how should I act as an adult man? You probably shouldn't look to 2015 Jack Murphy. Now, I say that assuming that 2021 Jack Murphy is a changed man, that he's not a sick pervert, that he's not a cuck, that he's not into, how should I put this, sex slave roleplay? I think that's the nicest way I could put it. I assume it's roleplay. I think he, you know, I pretty sure in the article he says, you know, let's just pretend. But nevertheless, you know, I don't associate those kinds of interests with healthy masculinity. Let's just put it that way. I don't look at, you know, pretend raping your 15-year junior girlfriend, which I guess he said in this article he was around 40. His girlfriend then would be about 25. You know, having an arrangement with her where you can quote-unquote rape her, you know, whenever you want, doesn't sound like healthy masculinity to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a softie. Maybe it's that I'm so my heart is rotted by feminism. But you know, I don't think rape is a healthy masculine trait. I would think that if old Jack Murphy of 2021 is teaching men for the small fee of $100 a month that rape is good, I wouldn't think that he'd be welcome on all of these, I guess they're whole right of center podcasts on the internet today. You know, I wouldn't call them all, you know, I wouldn't say they're all conservative, certainly. You know, Tim is not, you know, socially conservative by any means. I don't think that the, you know, Elijah and Sidney Watson, from what I understand, I don't think they're super, you know, traditional conservative Rick Santorum voter types. But still, I don't think any of them think that, you know, rape is an okay thing. I don't think that enslaving, quote-unquote, little girls is something that is, you know, approved of. I think this is the kind of thing that, you know, hey, if you're 2021 Jack Murphy, masculinity guru, charging guys $100 a month to teach them how to be a good man, going around promoting yourself on all these podcasts, you kind of need to address that. I don't think you can just shout "fuck you" at somebody who reads a super chat who brings this up. You know, once this is known, which is it's pretty much known now. I mean, it's not just. I mean, the cuck thing is the funny part. I mean, it's just kind of like, oh, of course, this guy is a professional masculinity guru. Of course, he's a cuck. You know, how much more of a hypocrite could you be? How much more of a fraud could you be? But I mean, there's worse stuff in there. Believe it or not, there's worse stuff in that article than the cuck stuff. I mean, in there, he basically says he divorced the mother of his children because she wouldn't have enough sex with him. And so then he went out and just started banging every girl 20 years, younger than him, 10 years younger than him that he could find to satiate his appetite. And now that he's got one who's loyal to him, a 25-year-old-ish girl, he now sends her out to have sex with other men while he sits there doing nothing. Because he has such an insatiable sexual appetite, you see. He needs to bang, bang, bang all the time, so much so that he had to divorce the mother of his children over it. Again, if there's such a thing as toxic masculinity, I think that's the term the feminists still use. It seems like 2015 Jack Murphy is the poster child for it. I mean, right down to the cuck stuff, which, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I can't parse this stuff out entirely. I mean, but the amount of cope in that however many hundreds of words, I don't think it was like 8,000 words, or I don't think it was that long. But it's a pretty long piece considering the topic. He goes to great lengths to try and justify this and how, I'm really in control. You see, I know, my girl's getting railed by Matt from Tinder, but I'm the dominant one. You have to be, I think he calls it like apex predator, or apex alpha or something like that to be a cuck. You have to be so alpha and so dominant that you completely submit to a younger man and let them screw your girl. And that, to me, if you're going to call anything toxic masculinity, that's it. The guy's his brain has been so rotted by his conception of masculinity that he's turned into a jellyfish, basically. There's nothing going on in there. There's no logic. It's just darkness. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I'm pretty sure when the brain goes dark, when a part of the brain goes dark, it doesn't come back. It's done. I mean, I'm serious. What Jack Murphy wrote in that article is mentally ill, to put it nicely. There's no other way around it. The guy was not leading a healthy lifestyle, to put it mildly. Banging anything that moves. And I guess he was proud of himself, or at least he thought so. So proud of himself that he became a cuck. That to him was the top. That was the, and to me it sounds like he broke. Something broke inside him. His brain was so far removed from what, like, healthy human relations are all about, that he's just off drifting in cyberspace. And so if I was trying to sell $100 a month subscriptions to my masculinity service as the grand poobah of liminal order, if I were Jack Murphy, I would want to come clean on this and try and say, you know what, I was like that. I had a problem in 2015, but I'm changed now. I'm a changed man. I had this epiphany. I had a pivot point, and I'm different now. But we didn't get that. We got, fuck you. Why are you doing this to me? As if he's a victim. When it sounds to me like he's a, pretty abusive guy. Leaving the mother of his children, because he has such a insatiable sexual appetite. He does all sorts of unspeakable things to little girls. His words, not mine. He bullies his very submissive younger girlfriend into having sex with men she's never met. The guy sounds like a monster. Plain and simple. Now, maybe he's changed. Maybe 2021 Jack Murphy is a totally different guy. And he's made the case before. He's talked about how he adopted his internet name as now his public name, because that used to be his anonymous internet blog, and he was in real life. He was John Goldman. Everyone knew him. Oh, he's John Goldman. And then at some point, I forget what happened. He got canceled or something, and he's like, no, now I'm Jack Murphy for life. It's like, so you embraced all of that internet persona? You embraced all of your deviancy and such? And this reminds me of a few people, actually people who he name drops in the article. Talks about Rush and Cernovich. I remember quite, a few years ago, Rush and Cernovich, they were these professional pickup artist guys. And I guess Jack Murphy was one of them too. And their whole thing was about, hey, I'll teach you how to get laid. Which is not, it's not a great family values kind of, positive masculinity business to be in. But all of these guys kind of transitioned over the past few years into being, giga-trad chads who, want to have lots of kids and have a healthy family life and be generally just good dudes who everyone can look up to. And I was never a fan of either of any of those three guys, but I'm just generally familiar with them. But I've not seen any of them, talk about, hey, why did you change? Is it just that the business of, hey, help me get laid, turning into, hey, help me to teach teach me to be a better family man? Is it just that the market shifted, or did you three guys independently decide, hey, I don't want to be a douchebag anymore? I don't know, but I mean, I feel like, they probably, at least Jack Murphy, I don't want to speak for the other two guys, but at least it seems like Jack Murphy owes his customers, if nobody else, an explanation. And if you want to get more customers, if you want to keep the ones that you have, you probably want to explain this publicly and say, hey, this article is an example of how broken I was until I found, this patented formula of mine that taught me how to be a better man. And now I'm so much better, and you can crawl out of this darkness that I was in, yourself by paying me $100 a month, or a one-time fee of like $3,380, I think, or $385. And guess what? If you pay me that money, you can't sleep with my fiance because I'm no longer a cuck. And so I guess on a last note, I don't want to act like because he wrote this article, the guy's, irredeemable and he can never be a good person. I'm not like that. I believe in forgiveness. But people have to acknowledge that they did something wrong. They have to acknowledge what was wrong about what they did. And, if you're a public figure like Jack Murphy, you kind of have to do that publicly. Maybe he made good and he apologized to his girlfriend. He said, what, I'm not like this anymore. Well, I'm just making all this up in my head. I'm trying to think, what's the best case scenario for this guy? That might be the truth. It might not be true at all. He might still be the same, because, if I were him, and somebody brought this article up, I would feel shame. I wouldn't feel anger, unless I was angry at myself. But I would be ashamed of it for the rest of my life. And I would say, I deleted that article off my website. I'm different. I'm not like that anymore. I was sick. I was twisted. And, I don't know, I found Jesus, or, I decided my kids are important to me. Because, this guy had kids at that point. I understand if maybe, like, you're 20 years old, and you write something like Jack Murphy did, with no kids, you've never been married or anything like that. If you're pushing 40 like he was then, you have kids, and, you're out doing all this deviant shit, what the hell is wrong with you? You've got a serious issue that needs to be addressed. And if you haven't addressed it, you're in no position to be teaching other guys anything about how they should live their life. And, to be honest, anybody who just sort of lets him skate on this, it's seriously going to impact my opinion of them. I look at I didn't watch the full episode with, on Tim's show with him. I don't know to the extent that I feel like it came up at some point, like very blightly. I saw something in the comments about people praising Luke. So maybe, I would imagine Luke of all people would, flip his lid, reading what Jack Murphy wrote here, and would not be cool with it. But I don't know how you associate with a guy like this until he clears it up and says, and makes it clear. Because to me, if I were a friend of this guy, I would not feel comfortable, being associated with him publicly, with this kind of crap around there. This isn't the dumb stuff that people get canceled for, like, oh, I said the N-word. Okay, nobody can ever talk to you again. You said the N-word. No, this is like he's proclaiming, his deep moral values in this piece, and his values are pure cancer to any society. And so I agree with Jim Mr. Medicare, that I don't see how Jack Murphy makes it out of this unless he actually addresses it and says, you know what, I had problems back then. That was 6 years ago, and I'm different now for these reasons. Then at least, because he's got so much clout amongst these, if you're a regular guest on Timcast IRL, that's a big asset. You don't want to blow that. And so if I were Jack Murphy, even after the blow up, because he could come back after the blow up at Sydney Watson or whatever, even though he gave a really douchey, underhanded apology on Twitter. That's personal stuff. You can recover from that. But your brand as a guy who's you sell your manhood. Nope. Don't read too much into that. But that's his business. He sells his manhood, and he gets to advertise, probably for free, every 2 weeks on Tim Pool's show. So if I were him, I would go on there and I would be begging that audience not to hate me, because if Tim sees, hey, every time I have Jack Murphy on now, I get 75% thumbs down, maybe Tim isn't going to want to have Jack Murphy on so much anymore. And so he might, he could lose these platforms that's how I would think about it if I were him, just in a pure business perspective. You got to come on there and neutralize this damage somehow. This isn't like a normal dumb thing where somebody tries to cancel you and you should just ignore it because it's dumb. The reason why you should not try and apologize when someone's trying to cancel you is because normally people try to cancel you over BS. But, even though Tim calls this cancel culture, I don't know, Tim. This seems like people not wanting to associate with people who have genuinely contemptible moral values. Someone who, espouses in his writing borderline sexual predation. And the only reason I say borderline is because, given him the benefit of the doubt, he seems to be only talking about adult women. And at that point, consenting adults, yes, it's predatory behavior, but he's not. It seems like, every time he talked about rape, he was like, in Minecraft. He didn't seem like he was talking about actual rape, but, if you wanted to be if you wanted to be slightly less generous in your interpretation of this writing than I am, because I'm trying to be nice. I don't want to just throw people under the bus for nothing. If you want to be slightly less generous in your interpretation, it's very easy to paint Jack Murphy as a proud sexual predator who has never apologized. And, somebody like that who doesn't feel a certain amount of shame for that, I have trouble taking them seriously in anything, because you read something like that, I would be so horrified if my name were attached to that. I would never want to be associated with those ideas. In fact, I would be so ashamed that I don't think I would want to be a public figure, because I wouldn't want this to keep coming up. I would want to live privately and hope that, no one in my private life, ever found that old article, let alone, put my face in public all over the internet regularly, always trying to promote myself, my personal image, and that name, that fake name that is attached to this article. He could just have easily, dropped the whole blog, started a new thing and said, this Jack Murphy thing, no, that's not me. But it's still his brand. It's a made-up name that he chooses. He chooses every single day to market himself as Jack Murphy. Well, this is a part of the Jack Murphy brand. And if you're really, such an apex alpha predator, you should be able to own this one way or the other. Either say, yeah, I wrote that, it's cool. Or, hey, I wrote that, and I'm a changed man. That's, I don't want to get into repeating myself too much. I think I've said about enough about this, but it's rare that you see things like this that are personal interest, I guess you call it, kind of stories. This isn't a big world event, but it's something that is just so telling to me about people in general. And the fact that, it's interesting that the condemnation of them is not universal. It seems to be mostly coming from, individual viewers of people who watch these shows. The hosts, whether it be Elijah Schaefer, Sydney Watson, or Tim Pool, or other people who this guy appears with, they don't seem to be condemning him. And I'm not saying they have to. It's not their responsibility to condemn the guy. It's just, you know, if I were in their position, this stuff, it would make me sick to my stomach to sit around with a guy like this unless I thought he was changed. I mean, to me, it seems like we still are in a society where this kind of behavior can be tolerated if you're sufficiently attractive, I guess. It's not that Jack Murphy's a super attractive guy or anything like that. He's not. But I guess he's in good shape. But he's not Harvey Weinstein. You see what I mean? Harvey Weinstein, I mean, what did he do? You know, did he... You know, I guess they say that he, you know, coerced women. I don't know if he really did that. It seemed to me like most of it was just, hey, this quid pro quo. I'm an ugly guy. It's hard for me to get laid. Sleep with me, and I'll put you in movies. That seems to be what Weinstein's whole gig was. And if Weinstein wasn't such a fat oaf and a disgusting-looking human being, and somebody who just sounded gross, somebody who wasn't like a, you know, a Jabba the Hutt type of character, he would have never faced any consequences for treating women that way. I mean, maybe I haven't delved that deep into the Weinstein stuff, but the stuff that Jack Murphy's into seems to be a bit worse to me. You know, I guess he's not coercing women in the same way, so I guess I shouldn't say that. Well, I mean, did Weinstein, was he ever convicted of actually coercing women? I guess I should look more deeply into this case, because, again, from what I understood, it was, you know, a quid pro quo. It wasn't, you know, hey, I want you to come meet me in my office, and then he, you know, overpowered them and assaulted them. It didn't seem like a you know, Bill Clinton meeting Juanita Broderick in that hotel room kind of situation. But, you know, now I'm getting into the weeds here, but getting off on tangents, which I don't want to do. But, you know, at the same time, as someone who, you know, I do think that we have a problem in this society where young men do not, and young women obviously, are not interested in pursuing a healthy lifestyle where, you know, they have a family that they care about and work, you know, and are motivated to work to try and support and things like that. I do think we need more of that in our society. So when I see someone who's trying to, I guess, be one of the figureheads of that, you know, hey, let's get back to a more healthy society message being exposed as a sick pervert, I kind of feel compelled to talk about that. And it's the kind of thing that really should not be ignored. Because how can anyone ever take those sorts of values seriously if they are being promoted by an unashamed pervert like Jack Murphy? So, with that said, I think I've said way more on this than I would have ever intended, but I guess I will see you folks back here tomorrow.